And welcome back to IGN's E3 live show, streaming live game demos and interviews right from the show floor. We're actually almost done with the day, but worry not. You'll be able to check out our archive on e3.ign.com. Right now, Hill is here with Bioshock master Ken Levine to talk about Bioshock Infinite.
Thanks, Naomi. So we're here to talk about Bioshock Infinite, and I think most importantly, we're here to talk about the new big bad enemy that is in this game. This is going to replace the big daddies that you know and love. This is something that is far more interesting, I think, than a big daddy because it has a real impact on the story. So we're joined by Ken Levine, who is the creative director over at Irrational Games. Ken, thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here, Hillary.
So can you maybe just explain who is Songbird and how does he fit in with the story of Bioshock?
Sure. So you've seen the character Elizabeth. That Booker is Booker. Your character Booker's partner through this experience. Well, you busted Elizabeth out of this tower that she was trapped in since she was a little girl, since she was around 5 years old. And in that tower, her only friend, her only companion, and her jailer was this thing called the Songbird, this giant, like 20-foot tall bird-like creature. And they have a complicated relationship, and I think if you've ever known people who've been in a sort of like an abusive relationship, they can get very, very, very complicated. And this is the thing that brought her food, that brought her books, but also kept her there for her whole life. And all Elizabeth wants is to be out in the world. What does any young person want? They want to fulfill their destiny. They want to control their destiny. And the Songbird's mission in life now is to get her back to the tower and get her away from Booker. And there's a scene at the end of the demo where he finds them finally, and the whole demo is he's searching for them. And you start to learn more about the kind of strange dynamic in this relationship.
I think part of the power of the demo really is that early on, Elizabeth tells Booker that, if anything should happen, and Songbird could get her away, she'd rather die than go back to her prison. And then maybe if you can explain, since we can't show the demo, maybe explain kind of what happens at the end of the demo to really kind of show this kind of sacrifice she makes.
Spoiler alert for people who want to watch a demo. This is, we're sort of going to talk about some of the things that are in there and some of the surprises. But, basically the demo for me is about sacrifice. This part of the story, because this is actually part of the game. It's actually a portion of the game, an early version of a portion of the game, like around a third of the way through. An important part of any relationship, forming relationship, is people do things for each other, they sacrifice for each other, and I think that's the theme of this demo. Is you learn that the last thing Elizabeth would ever want to happen to her, she'd rather die, is to go back to the tower. And the demo tells the story of, in order to protect Booker, what she'll do for him, the last thing she wants to do. And what's interesting, I think, when the Songbird finally appears, is he's almost like a jealous ex-boyfriend. He's not just this 30-foot tall bird creature, which is what he is. He's hurt and furious at her and at this guy who came and took her away. And Elizabeth, when she pleads with the Songbird not to hurt Booker and basically makes a deal with him that I'll go back with you if you spare him, the first thing she needs to do is, you've ever been in a fight with the girlfriend, or and they're mad at you and they don't want to look at you. So they look away, and the first thing you need to do is get in their eye line. You need to get their attention. You need to make them look at you. And there's this moment where Elizabeth's trying, this huge creature, and it's like a fight between through an arguing couple. And when I worked with John Mangagill, the animator, on who's this amazing animator we have, we talked about that. We talked about, John, you've been in a fight with your girlfriend. This is what it's like, and he just nailed that. Because it's one thing for me to say that about doing that with a 30-foot tall bird creature. It's another thing to actually make it work. And and so we talked about Elizabeth driving the act. She's the protagonist. He's the antagonist. She wants something. He wants to keep it from her. She needs to get his attention and convince him. And it was really interesting to do that between a human and this thing. Doing that with two actors can naturally fall into that. But to animate that in the context of Bioshock Infinite is a very different story.
And I think, one of the things that's different about, Bioshock definitely has a theme of giant metal things sort of protecting, for good or better or worse, young women. But there's a big difference between Elizabeth and, the little sisters. Can you talk about that?
Well, she's an adult, Elizabeth. She wants things in life. Little sisters, not only are they children, They don't have any will at all. Elizabeth has enough will to know what she wants, but she can't get there. And so, by definition, because she's not a child, there are definitely, I think you're finding thematic connections between, between the Big Daddy and Little Sister and Elizabeth and Songbird. There are echoes there, but it's a very different relationship because Elizabeth's not a child. And she's an active participant in this relationship, and there's a lot of ambiguity in the relationship and a lot of strangeness. Like, I knew, if you've ever known people who've been in, unhealthy relationships,
Sure.
there's a lot of ties that bind those people together, and they're really hard to extricate a lot of times. And, to do that between a woman and his creature was really challenging. But I think he has to fill that role in this story, and he does.
Well, let's take a quick look at the trailer that you guys released for E3, and we can see a little bit of the Songbird in that relationship.
That is an oath you cannot keep.
So this is that moment that we had mentioned at that point where Elizabeth is basically saying that she'd rather die than go back to that tower, where she's grown up in. Her entire life was spent basically in a room, right, locked away from society.
Looking out on the world. I know this is just little clips, from it. This is from the 15-minute trailer.
But it does give you that sense of Songbird, and I think one of the other interesting things about the game is that, unlike the previous Bioshock, which was really kind of a dark, dank place, it is a place that had already fallen into ruin. This is actually a floating city, beautiful skies, big, wide, open. There's a very different feel to it, but it's still creepy.
Yeah, well, I think, our challenge was not to repeat ourselves, right? We still want it creepy, but we didn't want to do it in the same way. And this world provides, if we're just going to do the same thing over and over again, we kind of die a little bit on the inside. But that means a risk, Hillary. That means that we got to try things that we don't know if are going to work. And that's why the point with these demos is we use these demos as ways to find the things that we're most scared of and confront them. Like these demos where we confront our demons, because we can't half-ass it and show it to the public and be like, oh, it's fine. They're going to tell us whether it's fine or not. And so we have to really make sure that we solve the problems we need to solve. So in this demo, skylines, Elizabeth, Songbird, all those things that we were really struggling with, we just had to make it work, and we had to figure it out for the sake of the game, and we're really happy with where we ended up.
Awesome. Well, that was a quick look and a quick talk about Bioshock Infinite. Now you know all about the Songbird's role in the story and how he or it relates to Elizabeth and your main character, Booker. Thanks so much for Ken Levine for coming to talk with us. Namu, take it away.
That game really can't come out soon enough. And if you guys are excited about Infinite, be sure to let us know. Follow at IGN on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts. Just be sure to use the hashtag E3. Now, our last segment of the day is something we actually promised yesterday. Time to slip in the driver's seat and see Forza Motorsport 4.